Hey everyone! In this episode, Chari Rigby, who is my financial advisor, and I discuss the importance of working with a financial advisor and how they can help individuals and business owners with their money. She explains the different options for retirement plans from previous jobs to benefits of starting your early retirement savings. Chari also emphasizes the need for balanced investing and paying off debt and the advantages of investing money instead of keeping it in a savings account. She really provides us with 3 big takeaways: prioritize savings for retirement, work with a financial advisor to create personalized plans, and avoid keeping large sums of money in low interest savings accounts. This is a very helpful episode for any of us CEOs, so I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today, I have Chari Rigby with me. She is a financial advisor, and she's going to be talking to you guys about all the fun things you should be paying attention to when it comes to your money. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. So let's tell them a little bit about what do you do and where you're located and who do you work with, so we kind of have a good idea of how can you help us.
Well, I am in Central Florida, about an hour south of Orlando in a town called Melbourne. I live in Palm Bay. My office is in Melbourne, so it's one of those close communities. I work with a lot of local people, but I also work with people all over the country. When it comes to being their advisor and working with them, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to my industry to cross borders and work with you, not outside the United States, but any of the core 50 I can work with.
Oh, a little bit different laws all over the place. It would be hard to work with international clients for sure.
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about how did you end up in this arena of financial advising? Like, did you do something before this? Was this the get-go profession? Tell us a little bit about the story.
Yeah. So I did not decide or have my radar on this career until no earlier than age 30. That's kind of when it started weaving its way into my attention. Prior to that, I graduated high school. I went to college because that's what you did, and got a degree and got married right at the end of college. My goal was to go to grad school for counseling. That was kind of what I had my sights on for the type of career that I wanted and that would fit kind of work into the life that I wanted with my husband and having children and being a mom and all of that. Flexible scheduling was attractive to me. And I planned on going to grad school. And when I got into one in Chattanooga, we decided to move to Florida. And so I didn't go there. And then I looked into virtual and, all the things that are now available online. And just with us both working and not qualifying for financial aid, it kept not working out, basically. So I got a job to pay the bills, and we started having kids. And I stayed in that job because it was flexible. I worked part-time for a local credit union. It's how I started working with people and their money back in 2005, helping with and all the questions that people have when you call your banking institution, right? Well, why did I get that fee? How do I get more interest? I need to apply for a loan. Why did I get charged out on my loan? My escrow account changed on my mortgage. So very, very wide range of things that we were handling throughout those years. At the credit union, they had financial advisors. So right around that, late 20s, early 30s, I started thinking about what was next as my kids were getting older, and I saw the advisors. And to be honest, I didn't really, until that time, know what a financial advisor was, other than, okay, they help people with their money. And then, so I was able to sit down with one of the advisors and kind of talk over what they did and what their career path was like and what you needed to have in order to be a financial advisor and all of that. My kids were still young, so I wasn't quite ready. So that was kind of a long path of waiting and finally being ready in probably 2016. And then I got a job within the credit union as a financial advisor trainee in 2017. They were able to help me get all the licenses. I am now fully licensed through the credit union, and then I was able to, after being laid off from the credit union, they moved away from investments, and I started with Raymond James in 2020. That was an interesting time getting laid off after almost 15 years at the same place. But looking back, it was a great opportunity for me to go somewhere with a little bit more independence and outside of the banking circuit, so to speak. So I can go out and find clients that I like and that I really want to work with versus being limited to just the membership at the credit union. So it ended up being a great shift in my life to have to look for another place to, hang my hat.
I think that happens to a lot of us where you're just not planning on this change happening, or, something, either you decide to leave or they decide you need to leave. And ended up just pushing you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of times for the better, helps you grow a little bit. So it's always nice looking back. It's never fun being in the moment. But
absolutely. Yeah. Trying to figure out like, okay, I haven't applied for a job in 15 years. How do we do this?
exactly. Well, tell us a little bit more about what is a financial advisor and how do people come to work with one? What does that mean? How does it work?
So, like I said, I didn't really know until coming to the credit union. And even at the credit union, those advisors, their business models are a little bit different. Every broker dealer sort of works slightly differently. So what I love about working at Raymond James is that I have the independence to build my business the way I want. And in saying that, I can offer the services of essentially being a quarterback and helping people get their house in order and figure out, not only on the money side of things, but on the risk management side of things and goal planning and figuring out that age-old question of like, is what I'm doing right now going to help me do what I want to do in 5, 10, 15 years? So just helping people form that game plan and check in and make sure that what we're doing is still in line with reaching those goals. And then, of course, celebrating once you accomplish a goal and are able to do things that otherwise you might not have been able to do. Life is very crazy and throws a lot at us. So it's very, very important. And I know I'm biased coming out of my mouth, but it's very, very important to have a plan. The other thing that I think is essential for an advisor is for them to provide you accountability and offering information that you don't have, ideas, products, things to do with your money that you wouldn't have known otherwise, but also helping you execute on the things that you do know that you need to do. And you're just maybe getting distracted or things are getting in the way from actually putting the plan into action. It's important that you work with someone that you're comfortable with and you share some of the same values, because it's going to, hopefully in the perfect world, it's going to be a very long-term relationship.
Perfect. So let's say I am a new business owner, started my business, last year. I'm starting to make a little money now. I understand that I have to start paying myself a salary. Maybe I left from a corporate job and I had a retirement plan there. What do I do now? How does working with a financial advisor help me? Why should I start working with a financial advisor? So tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's important because you don't know what you don't know. And nobody has enough time to scour the internet and read every article. I still highly recommend educating yourself on as much as you can, but hiring someone that's an expert in this field is very important. And some of the metaphors that I've compared it to in the past is there's kind of varying levels of need and desire when it comes to this kind of professional relationship. And so one is like, you don't like working on cars. You don't want to have to worry about how to change your oil. You just want to take it to the dealership and have them do it and handle it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you want your hair cut a certain way, or you can color it. You can do it at home. You can learn the skills and buy the products and do what you need to do to have that ability, but it's sometimes a little bit easier to rely on an expert and have someone who knows what you want, knows what you're trying to do with your hair, and is able to put the right products together and accomplish that. And then the third one I use is like lawn care. Lawn care is super easy. You don't have to be an expert at anything, but you might need the right tools, but you just might be the type of person that doesn't have the time or doesn't want to put the wherewithal into cutting your own lawn. So you're going to decide to hire somebody else to handle that and take that off your plate. So I think lack of expertise or just lack of time can be a huge kind of reason that you would decide to work with someone. And there are a lot of things that are not available to the general public. You have to work with someone that is licensed and that has a high level of accountability and fiduciary requirements that my industry has to be able to offer different products, because they're not they're complicated, or they just require an expert touch.
Let's explain to people, what does fiduciary mean?
A fiduciary is basically someone at the highest level of trust and accountability that's always going to make recommendations that are not only in your best interest, but is the best fit for your situation. And the way that I kind of put that in layman's terms is the old, our industry used to, or still works in some types of accounts under suitability. And suitability just means I could walk into a shoe store and say I need a shoe, and if you sell me a shoe, then you're good. You're meeting the rules of suitability. You could have sold me a clown shoe when I'm trying to tap dance or go to a professional interview, but suitability doesn't really worry about that. So a fiduciary, the rules for that say that I have to ask you, what is the shoe for? What are you trying to accomplish? What is your size? And if I recommend a clown shoe, Raymond James is going to come along and say, that's not really what they were asking for. What are you doing? So it's important to just know that difference between, it might be an investment product, it might be something that is okay or good for you, but it's maybe not the best. And a fiduciary has to give you the best.
So very important when you guys are looking for your financial advisor services to make sure that that company or that person includes fiduciary services that are going to look to benefit you and make sure that they are doing what's best for you, independent of, people work under certain commissions, and maybe this product might give them a higher commission, but the product over here is the one that's going to give you the best outcome. So they are obligated to kind of guide you in that direction. So explain to us a little bit about working with financial advisors as far as paying up front, or like, do I have to have money to pay you right away? How does it work if I want to work with you as a financial advisor?
Okay. Well, exactly what you said is a perfect segue into that conversation, because, the old school way of working with a financial advisor was very commissions based. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, because there are a lot of high quality, high integrity people out there. But there are also maybe not so high integrity people out there. So commissions incentivize activity or trading or certain products. And so, which again, going back to the best interest or the best vehicle for what you're trying to do, it might not be the best fit. The new school way of working is typically a percentage of assets. charged on, we call it an annual fee. We call them fee-based accounts. All fee-based accounts, your advisor is a fiduciary, and you're going to get that higher standard, if you will. And the incentive is to grow together. So it's more of a team mindset that we're in this together. We want the accounts to grow, and it's less incentivized by product type or activity, because you don't necessarily want to just trade and do things if it's makes more sense to hold, right, and stay in the same type of product. The fee-based or the percentage of assets might include planning, but it might not. So that's just really case by case or advisor to advisor if they offer those additional services. So recently, I actually added another pillar of paying for planning. And really, it's for those people that maybe they have assets, maybe they don't, but they understand the value of a robust financial plan and putting that together, and the time and the homework and the back and forth required to do that and then to execute it. So I've added that as another option for people. And really, it's like hiring an attorney. You're maybe putting them on retainer or hiring them for a set period of time to accomplish, put the goal plan together and execute it. My goal there is I want to get you to the point where you have assets and we work together. We continue working together long term. But then, of course, that would move more to the percentage of assets and the ongoing strategy sessions that I have with clients who have accounts with me.
So basically, if I don't have to pay up front, I can just reach out and say, hey, I'm looking to start making smarter decisions about my money and maybe invest some money. And then you can go ahead and start working together.
Yes, it's very customizable, at least the way that I work, and a lot of great advisors work with people. We're going to have a connection meeting. We're going to have a consultation, make sure that I can add value, that it does make sense to work together, or maybe it's a kind of not yet, but here are some things you can work on, and then we can talk in a year or two, kind of. So it's very flexible.
That's great. I think that's a big misconception, a misunderstanding out there, that people don't know that they don't have to pay for services up front. That is something that, as you grow together with the assets and the accounts, that's how that person that's advising you is going to make their money. That's how they're going to get their compensation. So perfect. When in somebody's life career path should they start working with a financial advisor? Do they need to wait until they have some money saved, or is it better to start right away so they can understand how to save this money, how to pay for maybe loans that they have and things like that?
The question of when is, my answer is earlier than you think. And yes. If you are asking the question, it's probably time. It's at least time to have that conversation. Reach out to people that that you trust. Sometimes the issue, and I don't know if maybe this discourages people or turns them off from doing more research, but a lot of times advisors who are in either mid or late career have about as many clients as they can reasonably handle. And we're a very service, ongoing meeting style of business, and when you're in the best way, unless some advisors will just slap someone in something and check in 3 to 5 years. Well, that's not the type of advisor that I want to be, and so that ongoing relationship, you really can only have so many clients because there's only so many hours in a day. So they might start setting minimums for assets to say, okay, from here on out, I can really only take on, accounts over X number of dollars to make it so that, my book still grows. But so that's kind of the mindset. Now, what comes across to people is you have to have $100,000, $250,000 to work with an advisor, which is not true. So if someone is, starting out, maybe look for someone that is earlier in their career and has a little bit more flexibility. So one of my favorite things about my job is that I get to choose who I work with, and I get to work with people that I like. And so, that doesn't necessarily mean we're starting with a certain dollar amount. It might mean that, we're working on that planning side and we're putting together a financial plan. And then I'm helping you automate and get things rolling, like I said, so that in a shorter period of time than doing it on your own, you have the assets, and we kind of work towards that. So
that's another thing that I feel like, big misconception, misunderstanding when it comes to financial advisors. So thanks for explaining that to us.
Yeah, you don't have to be rich, because by then it's kind of like starting your estate plan after you die. It's kind of like, the people who need the most support and planning are often, you may be a high earner, but you haven't built up a lot of assets yet. So, that's why I like having the flexibility to work with people the way that it makes sense for where they are.
Yeah, that's perfect. So for a lot of entrepreneurs in the creative world, there's a lot of us who maybe have left a different job where we had maybe a 401k or a 403b, which are retirement plans that employer was contributing money to, and now you left that job. What happens with that? What should you be looking to do with that? So tell us a little bit about, give us some advice on that transition of that retirement plan, and what do I do now that I own my own business?
Well, and I can certainly walk through the options, and really it's ultimately up to that person what makes sense for where they are and where they're going. Most of those plans are going to allow you to keep the money there. So that's option number one, is to leave it there and leave it invested as it's invested. You're obviously not adding to it anymore, but a 401k or a 403b, a TSP in the military or government work, the thrift savings plan is what that stands for. A lot of these, numbers and letters that get thrown around are all simply just the same. They're very similar accounts, which just means these are retirement accounts that are meant to not be touched until after 59 and a half. And hopefully, you don't have to touch it all right away. You can let it keep growing. But so you can leave it in the plan typically, unless the employer has gone out of business or changed providers, like they go from Fidelity to Vanguard or something like that. Then you might be presented with a letter giving you, it's like, okay, here's what you've got to do. You can take it out, you can roll it over. So the second one is you can roll it into an IRA. Individual retirement account is what that stands for. And it's an account you own, and typically you decide where you want that to be, whether it's at Raymond James or Vanguard or Fidelity. A lot of these places will open an account for you that can take the rollover from your 401k or other work plan. And then the difference between leaving it and rolling it into an IRA would be, in that old plan, you had 20, 30 mutual funds that you could pick from, some target date funds usually that are based on your age. Target date funds basically are more aggressive when you're younger and farther away from retirement. And then automatically, without you doing anything as the investor, they get more conservative as you get close to that target date of your retirement. So they pick a date based on your age, but it's really just based on the length of time or the time horizon you have in that account. So rolling into an IRA, you most likely have a little bit more flexibility and more open to investment options, where you can maybe have a stock portfolio or pick different mutual funds or put it into something else that's not necessarily available in the 401k. And then the third option would be, in this example, really the two. I mean, you could take a full distribution, but we don't want to do that and pay taxes on the full amount. But if it was someone who was moving to another W-2 job, they could roll it in. They might be able to roll it into their new 401k plan. So it's kind of the
Just
three.
transfer from one job to the next. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of plans are adding that now, where you can roll in money to the 401k plan if you have it outside of wherever they're held.
Perfect. So you either leave it there where it is, but knowing that there's no longer contributions happening from an employer because you're not working there anymore. So it's just going to kind of, the growth is going to be a lot slower, right? By leaving it there potentially, or not. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still going to be growing with whatever investments are in there, but you're right. The compounding of the dollar cost averaging contributions is moved obviously to wherever you're contributing now. And I say wherever you're contributing now because hopefully you're contributing to something else.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people leave a job and they don't understand that. So everything kind of stopped. Your employer is no longer, your former employer is no longer contributing. You're no longer contributing because that used to be taken off of your paycheck. And now you don't have a paycheck with that institution anymore. Most people don't even know how to continue to contribute to that, right? Or start putting money somewhere else. So yes, there's an option, but I feel like that's your lazy, I don't know what to do kind of option. And then, being proactive and say, hey, I'm the owner of my business now. I need to start thinking about my future. So let's start, an IRA, and let's look into transferring that money so I can continue to make contributions as an employer of myself and also as an employee. So I can now contribute potentially both ways as the employer and as the employee of my own company, and continue to grow that so you can have some good savings for your retirement. Hey, wedding photographers and event planners, say goodbye to time chaos with Timeline Pro. Our app turns your workflow into a breeze, letting you create and customize stunning wedding day timelines in minutes. Share them with clients and vendors for instant feedback, all within the app. No more endless emails and coordinating headaches. With our easy-to-use templates, shot list tracker, and sunset timings, your planning becomes as joyful as the events you're crafting. Dive into a stress-free planning experience and make every wedding a masterpiece. Download Timeline Pro now and transform the way you plan weddings and events. For more, visit timelineproapp.com.
Yeah, and I think that's why, having the right experts in your corner, like a great CPA or enrolled agent for your taxes and a financial advisor. I mentioned kind of being a quarterback and helping you make sure, loop in all those experts, and you've got your attorney for maybe you've set up your business on your own, but you need some help with contracts, or you don't have an estate plan like a will or trust. You've got your attorney expert to help with the various things you might need. And then your advisor is hopefully going to help you figure out, based on business structure, how many employees you have, all the different variables in your life, what is the best type of account now to maximize not only your tax management in your current earning years, but also in the future, and what that looks like for when you need to start pulling money out. Because a lot of people don't understand the saving on taxes now. You're going to have to pay those taxes later. Do we think taxes are going to go up or stay the same or go down? I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you, but I think historically, the chance of taxes going up are good. So what are the types of things you can do to maybe balance that tax advantage now versus later, or pay taxes now and then have some tax-free money in retirement? So all that is, somebody can help you figure that out as a business owner.
So you mean we're not going to live forever and not going to be young forever? We need to start thinking about that.
No, and there's no magical pension. Even if you max out your Social Security, that's still only a limited amount that you're going to get. And that's where, investing in these types of financial decisions it's so important that they're goal oriented and they're not just the singular, well, it's, you need to do this because you're 30 years old, or you have this dollar amount, so you should do this. It needs to be based on your goals, because you might be able to. My husband recently asked me, probably a couple of years ago, but he said, okay, Miss Financial Advisor, what if I won the lottery? And I think the Powerball was, I don't know, 250 million. It was a lot of money. And the knee jerk is like, oh, of course you invest it. But really, it's, if your lifestyle and your age and where you see yourself going, hey, my lifestyle is not going to change that much. I'm still going to drive my used car, and I need this much to live on per year. And you can earn that off of that much money sitting in a very safe, secure, FDIC insured place, then maybe that's the thing that makes sense for you. But anyway, so it needs to
Yes.
be goals based on what you're trying to accomplish.
Which again, why it's important to sit down with somebody and try to understand what kind of life I want to live when I retire. What kind of expenses I'm still going to have. Am I still going to be paying for a house? Am I still going to be paying for maybe kids' colleges and things like that? So understanding what kind of money you're going to need 20, 30 years down the road. And how to get there. It's what that financial advisor is going to help you with.
And compounding interest is your friend. The earlier you start those planning, like, hey, how much do I need to save per month now for 20 years from now, 30 years from now? It's not as much as you might think. And you get it invested in the right things, and, don't take on too much risk. Take on enough risk. Make the right decisions, then you're going to be able to do probably a lot more than you ever imagined. The earlier, the better.
Which brings me to talking about kids and helping our kids make sure that they have a nice, time when it comes their time to retire. So something that you can start helping, as soon as possible, as however you can with your kids, and as early as possible, right? So I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we already started putting some money away for them in the retirement account, because when you look at compounding interest and how much that's going to yield at the end of a good 40 years of that money just accumulating in there, and it's not a huge amount, but it's enough that they're going to be pretty good and pretty set when it comes to their retirement time. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think there's business owners have a little bit more flexibility to get creative in this area when it comes to their kids. I opened a Roth IRA for my son the day he started his part-time job at Chick-fil-A. You have to have earned income, whatever that looks like, however you structure that. But and there's not really limitations on minors. Raymond James will open a minor Roth IRA, and as long as there's an adult signer or someone to sponsor the account, so to speak, they can have a Roth IRA. And exactly that. I mean, I had my son. I asked him, what percentage he wanted to put in. We figured it out, and we took that out of his paycheck and added it to the Roth. And I just sat him down and pulled up, I think it was NerdWallet, has a great compounding calculator. And I said, if you just take this little bit that you're saving, in your high school part-time job, and then you only contribute to this Roth IRA at the annual maximum. Once you have a job and it's a steady job and you've got the cash flow to be able to do that, right now that's $7,000 a year, which that doesn't sound like a lot to people who make $100,000 a year. Sounds like a little bit more if you're only in like a $30,000 a year job.
Right.
But you can ease into it. You can work up to it, right? My philosophy is you should be saving 20% of your income, whatever that looks like, that as a minimum. You don't necessarily start there, right? You don't shock your budget by jumping from nothing to 20, but you can ease into that. But anyway, I just said, just do the Roth IRA. And by his age, 65 is 50 years from now. And I believe it was between $1.5 and $2 million.
Yeah.
Just from $6,000, $7,000 a year, every year consistently, not skipping years or taking money out for things. And we know life happens, but the compounding interest it just snowballs after that long of a period of time.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So the earlier you start, the better, and that goes for yourself too. Like I always tell people, the best time to start is yesterday, right? So the earlier, and which is why I wanted to bring, I wanted to bring you on this show to start talking to people about thinking about these things now. We are by default a profession that has a lot of young people who have maybe left a corporate job or maybe started right away having their own business. And we are very short sighted and don't think about what's going to happen when you retire. So the earlier you start thinking about putting a little bit of money aside, even if it's just a little bit, if it's sitting there, if it's getting that interest, it's going to help you a ton at the end of the day. So very important to start thinking about that as early as possible.
And business owners, I've found, are usually the I guess the worst culprits at ignoring their own long-term financial picture, because they're grinding, they're out there, they're trying to create something and provide for their family, and it's a lot of times you're just putting out fires. But I think it's important that you pay yourself first. And that's a phrase that's thrown around a lot, but essentially what it means is you make saving for your retirement and for your long-term goals not optional. And you have that be the first, this is a bill, right? Like, this is part of my budget, this is going in. And then you slowly, as your business grows, or if you're in a job, if you get pay raises, you crank that up every year, and you move into having your savings be a bigger chunk of what you're bringing in. So
perfect. So tell us, what do you think are the top 3 things that people should be looking into doing with their money? So let's say I have some money. What do I need to be doing with it?
Yeah. A very, very common question I get is investing versus paying off debt.
Mm-hmm.
So the number one thing I would say is figure out a way to balance those two things so that you're not choosing one over the other, but you're tackling both. Now, there may be a season where you're overweighting debt reduction because your debt is we all know rates have gone up, right? Yeah. So your debt rates may be higher than they ever have been, versus the rate of return you're going to get in an investment account. But you don't have to be in one camp or the other, or do all or nothing. So balance investing for your long term with debt reduction, because you definitely don't want to put yourself in a cycle of rolling debt over constantly and getting to your 50s and 60s and still having, and I mean, debt is just an anchor on your retirement. So you should try to have most of your debt taken care of and be out of debt and in a position where you're paying for things like cars and fun stuff and vacations with cash. Your mortgage you may be able to pay it off prior to retirement, or it may carry on. But again, those are those kind of decisions that you have a financial advisor for. Like, hey, if we were to buy this house and put this much down and add another 30 years to our debt, what does that look like? What does that do our plan? And then number 2, I've already said it actually, is just pay yourself first and make it not optional. That's very, very important. And my recommendation would be to get to the point where it's at least 20% into your long-term accounts. There's a process to getting yourself set up so you have an emergency account. How much is in your emergency account depends on if you're a business owner and your pay is variable. You're going to want to lean more towards having maybe a little bit more in that emergency account in case something if you get sick or
Mm-hmm.
get injured and you're not able to work, what does that look like? That's what an emergency account is for. And then finally, just avoid, if you're a really good saver and been very disciplined. I actually meet a lot of young people who have 20, 50, $75,000 in the bank, and it's great. But I would say avoid having really large sums of money in cash and in low interest bearing savings accounts, because you need an emergency account. But beyond that, you also need to make sure that you're, getting a decent rate of return on what you've saved up, so that you're not missing out on the opportunity of that compounding interest.
That's perfect. Yeah, my next question too was, why should somebody invest their money versus putting into a savings account? Like, what is the main difference there?
The main difference is that we all hear about inflation, and there's a lot of 24-hour news cycle constantly talking about the Fed. Are they going to raise rates? Are they going to cut them? And the Federal Reserve's target inflation is 2%. So if you just think about, if bread costs 2% more next year, and then 2% more the next year, and then 2%, even if we're in an inflation environment that's ideal, quote unquote, right, for the Federal Reserve and our economy, you're still going to be paying more now or then than you are now. So if inflation's at 2% and your money is sitting in cash or in a FDIC insured account earning 0.01%,
Yeah.
or let's say you moved it to an online savings account and you're getting 1%. Rates are higher right now because of what's been going on, but that's not gonna last. Rates will equalize eventually, but you think about what's happening to your money if it's sitting there in that 0.01 or even 1%, and the things that you're buying and the things that you need on a daily basis are increasing at a 2 to right now. I mean, inflation's been above 5%, so your purchasing power starts eating into your money. And especially when it comes to 10, 20, 30 years, we talk to people about investing and using different vehicles like the stock market or different structured products, because we want to keep pace with inflation. We want to earn enough that you're going to have enough to buy the things that you need and do the things that you want to do 10 years from now once inflation comes in. So that's the reason I would say is that the average person does not have $250 million from the Powerball lottery. So your hard-earned money and your hard-earned savings, you don't want to lose purchasing power on that by letting it sit in an account and not earn what it can.
What is the interest compared an investment versus the savings account? So savings accounts are really low. We're talking 0.01% to maybe 1%.
Yeah.
There's some high yield savings accounts that might give you a little bit more, but what do you should expect from an investment standpoint when it comes to interest rate?
That is very case by case. It depends on what you're invested in. But just to give you some examples, we have a money market a money market fund that is as close to cash as you can get. It's liquid. It's just not FDIC insured like a bank account would be. But that's been paying over 5.4% the last year because of the interest rate environment. But if you look at bonds, for instance, in terms of an average rate of return from there, you can expect anywhere from 2 to 6% historically. The stock market, I know if you step back and look at an average, 8 to 12% is probably conservative. But last year, the S&P 500, which are just the top 500 companies in the U.S. That's all that means. S&P 500 did over 20%. So it's year over year, and 2022 was a very different story. It fell in the opposite direction.
Right.
But the roller coaster of that risk versus reward, that you're risking down markets, but over time, the U.S. economy we expect to grow and to to go up. So that's those are some averages, I guess, give you an idea.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to understand, like, just leaving your money sitting there in a savings account, nothing is happening. You're going to have basically that same amount of money, if not even a little bit less, because of bank fees and things like that. When you grab that maybe 10 years later. But if you invest that same money into investment accounts with a financial advisor with some good advice and good planning, you can get significantly more money at the end of that same period of time. So, well, thank you so much. This was great. I know we got a lot of good understanding out of what we talked about, a lot of good tips for people to help people understand. Where can people find you if they want to work with you, if they have some questions and maybe want to schedule a consultation?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. My email address is my first name last name @raymondjames.com. It's pretty straightforward there. And I'm sure you'll be able to share other ways to contact me, but I'm again flexible for that initial conversation. The consultation is free. We can talk, have a connection meeting, and see if there is a good way forward for us to work together. And I'm always happy to talk through with people. And there doesn't need to be any hesitation or concern, like, oh, maybe I don't want to not insult the person, but just like I don't have enough, or I don't think I qualify, so to speak. That I think that's been a misconception floating out there. So I'm happy to talk to anyone, essentially.
Oh, thank you so much. It was super fun to have you here. I know it's, again, something that I feel is very important. You know me, so Chari is my financial advisor, guys. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, is to make sure that I teach everyone around me, all the young people that I see in my line of business, to start looking into investing their money right away as soon as possible. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, Nada.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.